Howdy. Today is March 11th, 2021, and this is the third time that I've tried to shoot this video. The first time there was no reception. The second time, apparently the first 12 minutes had no sound. So here we go with number 3. I have some really exciting news, exciting to me anyway. I don't have to have the pick line put in. I didn't have to have the pick line put in today. It was a very dramatic scene. I just cut to the chase there in delivering the news. So picture this: for the past week, I've been known that I've had to do this. I had this appointment today. Called yesterday to find out what time it was. It's supposed to be at 9:30. I spent the past 3 days at the hot springs up in the Miracle Hot Springs up in the Sierras, and kind of getting ready for this whole process. And I was feeling very heavy, I have to say. So the pick line apparently is it's kind of like a port. They stick a line in your arm that goes up into your chest cavity or something. I don't know. I didn't look at the whole picture, thankfully. So the purpose of it was to I'm scheduled to have 6 infusions of what was to be a 3-drug cocktail. 2 would be chemo and 1 would be this immunotherapy drug. One of the chemos is the same one I had last year. This platinum-based drug that I had last year. I got irradiated, so I have irradiated platinum infused to every one of the cells of my body, and my little mental bubblegum game playing, I like to joke that I was Platinum Man now, but as it turns out, I have more platinum in me, because they've scheduled 6 infusions of this over the next 18 weeks, and so I've had that before. The immunotherapy drug is supposed to make the cancer visible to my immune system, because most cancers have this elaborate strategy to make themselves invisible to your immune system so that your immune system doesn't react to them. And they figured out a way to change that up. So kind of excited to get going with that, because that was my initial strategy when I first got the diagnosis in September of 2019, was to try to build up my immune system and have it do its job. But then I discovered, just before I started treatment a little over a year ago, that there was no way that was going to happen, because the cancer had the virus had fused this virus that's it's a variant of the human papilloma virus, HPV virus, that I was apparently exposed to more than 25 years ago. Its DNA had fused with the DNA of my throat cells, and so to my immune system, I was, the cancer was me. So, but this immunotherapy drug is supposed to be able to reverse that. Yippee! So I'm all about that. I'm all on board with that. The third drug, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce, I was told last week that I would have to get this PICC line put in, and that it would make it possible for me to, you have to infuse this drug in your system over a 48-hour period. That's what I was told. And so they give you a little pouch that's got a pump in it and it's supposed to do that over a 48-hour period. So that would have had to happen after each one of these 6 infusions. So picture this. I go in there this morning, and I was there an hour early. I get finally at, when it gets close to 9 o'clock, go and knock on the door, and the nurse comes and she opens the door, and I walk into the room, and there's there's 2 beds, and one of them has a patient in already, and the other one, I guess, is for me. And so we walk over there, and sure enough, they start pulling out all this stuff that I'm supposed to, use for my procedure. And so I'm like, wow, this is really getting serious. She pulls the covers back, and so I start taking my clothes off, and she's like, oh, just the top, because we're only doing the top. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I climb up in the bed, and she pulls the covers up, and they take my blood pressure, which is really good, by the way. It's 121/75. So I'm very healthy and strong as an ox, right? Except I'm still killing myself. So, which is the same thing that happened last year. So she's prepping me, and she has me sign the release form and everything, that I understand what they're going to do, the procedure and everything like that. I sign the release form, give it back to her. She puts on the bib, and she starts to, get ready to get down to business. And there's a knock on the door, and the other nurse goes over, and she opens the door, and it's my doctor, right? And she my new oncologist, and he's like, excuse me, but can I have a word with the patient before you begin? And he's got this white paper in his hand, and he comes over, and he goes, I have to apologize. I may have misled you. I was just going over this procedure, this paper on the protocol of this drug cocktail that we've been planning to give you, and I told you that you'd be able to leave the hospital with this pump, and get pumped over 48 hours, and that's what the PICC line's for and everything. And but I was just reviewing this study about the efficacy of this cocktail, and it actually says that you would have to remain in the hospital for 4 days. Like, oh Jesus. He says, yeah, so you would come in on Monday and start the regular 6-hour infusion, but then you would have to stay until Friday. And you'd have to do this for each of the 6 infusions that we have scheduled for you. And I'm like, oh man. And I've got my double mask on, and I'm like, he says, I'm really sorry that I misrepresented this. I said, make a long story short, I said, so so this PICC line is basically for that second chemo drug, right? And he says, yeah. And this was supposed to be so I could leave the hospital and not have to stay in the hospital at all, just come in for the infusion. And this would be, basically I said, why not just do, I said, just because we're spitballing here, right? what about just doing the chemo that I did before, the cisplatin that I responded really well to last year, and it got rid of that first tumor in the first 11 days, and the immunotherapy. Why don't we just do that? And he says, well, we're still waiting to get back the test that we did on the biopsy tissue. That would, if you get a high score in that, we could just do without the chemo altogether. And we should know in about a week. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, but I feel that it would be really good until we know about that. Let's just do the cisplatin and the immunotherapy drug, because I really feel like if we can do the cisplatin, that it's going to pretty much take care of this thing in at least 2 infusions, if not before. So that way we've got ourselves covered, and if it becomes necessary to do add the third one, the other chemo drug, then we can still do that after the second infusion. How does that sound? He says that sounds pretty good, because if your score comes back and you get a really good score, we can just get rid of the chemos altogether and just focus on the immunotherapy. And I was like, great. The downside of this immunotherapy thing is it could actually, he told me that it could take 2 years of infusions. The upside is the infusion of just that drug is only 2 hours instead of the 6 hours. And there are people that don't go through the whole 2 years, but we'll see. So that would be an infusion every 3 weeks for 2 years. I don't think it's going to come to that, but anyway, we fist bumped on our new plan, and I jumped out of that bed, and I'm getting dressed and everything, and I gave him a big hug, and it's been a very good day. Let's put it that way. I don't have any more holes in my body than I did when I woke up this morning. That's always a good plus. That's always a plus. That's how you definitely want to live, right? So this means no PICC line. Don't need to have a nurse come or me go to a nurse every week to have the dressing changed and all that kind of stuff. The hygiene factor, having to bathe every day is not as much of an imperative. The other news is I got the apartment in Venice Beach on the boardwalk in the building that I used to live in. And 1305 Oceanfront Walk used to be the Venice Beach Hotel. Now they're calling it Boardwalk Flats, whatever. It's a 112-year-old building. Charlie Chaplin used to keep his lovers in, and I really love it. I've written and published, I don't know, about 15 books there, and a couple of movies. The energy there is just really good, and I actually got a chance to look in the room today, so it's 308. It's on the alley, but it's up. So there's an ocean view, and as I said, it's right on the boardwalk. And the main reason why I'm getting this is so that I can I can walk on the beach every day, and initially it was so that I could bathe every day, but I was hoping that I would get a room that has a bathtub, but because after the second infusion it became last year, it became really necessary to soak every day as a relief of the effects of the treatment. And but this room doesn't have a bathtub, so I'll probably just be there for the month. And in case another room opens up that has a bathtub, if not, I'll move on. And so I gave them my notice today that I was. You have to give them 30 days notice. Let them know that if you're gonna move out, and it's on a month-to-month lease. So and it works out to be about $80 a day, which is about what I would spend at the Motel 6 out by LAX. It's at $80 a day, and they have a friggin' bathtub. But it's a ways from the beach. And luckily for me, I have a friend that wanted an original painting, and so I painted them the painting, and the money from that sale is what's paying for the apartment. And so I put down a deposit on it today, and I'm slated to move in on the 16th. The 16th is the day before the infusion starts, and it's the day I have to go to the hospital and get a blood draw. They check your blood to make sure that they to determine how much of the drugs you're going to be given, especially in relation to what your body weight is and all that kind of stuff. At least that's what I've been told. So, talk about relief, man. Also, the other thing is, I wasn't really sure if I'd be able to do things like fly with that PICC line in, because I don't think they really understand what entails. Like, you could get knocked, you could fall down and get dragged and sweat a lot, and really hard to keep that clean, keep that that PICC line thing clean under those circumstances. Not to mention the fact that I wouldn't be able to sit in a hot spring, or it'd be very challenging to sit in a hot spring with that hole in my arm. But now all that's history, so we're good. So I want to talk about something I talked about in the video earlier that you'll never see because half the sound is gone. Over the past couple of days, I started to get there's this thing that happens to pregnant women, women that have babies, right? Is they forget there are certain chemicals that their body gives them after they've given birth to help them forget the hellacious pain and suffering that they go through in childbirth. And it's kind of a cosmic strategy to prime them for having more babies, and I think I got some of those drugs because I forgot, or I'm at least in the past couple of days, as we get closer to the reality of this new treatment round, I have started to remember some of the, things that are connected to this process. Some of the things that have been coming to me about this. I've been remembering what it was like. Some of the more challenging aspects, and in a nutshell, for the first round and up until I started to suspect that the cancer was back in January, I was thinking that I had gone through this death, transformation, rebirth process, this shamanic journey, and I sure have, but I thought I was in the rebirth part. And it turns out that I'm still in the death part, and leading to the transformation, or at least in the transformation part, because we're double dipping. So what I said earlier is that there's two, you know, when you have cancer, there's two aspects of it. One is the cancer itself, which is a life-threatening disease, and no matter what they tell you, you know, whether they say, oh, you have this long to live and you're going to die in less than such, you have this many months, whatever, or they tell you that, oh, you have the opportunity to have a 100% cure. There's no guarantees. You know, we all know people that were told they were going to die and they never did, and they're still around and living a healthy, happy life. And we all know people that were told that they, you know, their prognosis was really good and they ended up dying. You know, a big part of those people that end up dying is because of the cure. You know, as many people die of the cure as they do of the cancer. You know, but you have a choice. If you don't attempt the cure, you're definitely going to die of the cancer, and it's not going to be pretty. Never is. And so you take your chances with something that will, in theory, almost kill you. There were several times when I went through what I went through last year where where death revealed itself to me. And I've spoken about it elsewhere in this chronicle. And the past couple of days, a couple of things have happened that have kind of reminded me of where I am in this process. And we're definitely on the second dip into this confrontation with death, transformation, and rebirth, and I recognize that now. This cancer, from the beginning has been, it's in my neck, which is throat chakra, right? And throat chakra is trusting in the truth of your relationship with divinity, with the source of all that is. It's your relationship with the Father, right? The cosmic Father aspect. It's the Holy Spirit, your relationship with the Holy Spirit, or the Spirit of Holiness, the manifester. So it's all about manifesting. It's all about wealth, realizing your true wealth. But it's also about the voice, realizing your voice. And that has been tremendously true, as you can tell from this story I shared earlier. Again and again through this process, I have had to be my own advocate. I have had to speak my truth and sound my voice. I've had to speak up for myself and to advocate as much as the doctors do. And like in this case today, if I had gone in there and just done whatever the doctors said, I'd have a hole in my arm, and I would be looking at having to be in the hospital for 4 days, for 24 days, and over the next 18 weeks. 4 days after each of the 6 infusions. And I'd have this other chemo drug that I'm not familiar with, but I understand that it's a very, very, it has a lot of side effects, and I hadn't even looked at those, and because I didn't want to look at those. And now I don't have to look at what I'm missing. Thank you very much. But the same with, if I hadn't spoken up when this latest cancer diagnosis, recurrent diagnosis, was brought to my awareness by that doctor, the ENT doctor. She said, "Well, Mr. English, your first your options are surgery followed by chemo and radiation. And I was like, no. Because, and the reason I said that, it wasn't just because I'm just pulling out of my butt. It's because I said to her, you're saying the exact opposite as the attending physician when I was first diagnosed with this. And she had to review the notes to see that what I was saying was exactly true. And, and I said, how about this? I'm opting for the exact opposite of that, that sequence you mentioned. Let's go for the chemo, radiation if necessary, and if all else fails, then we'll talk about, surgery. So, that's just two examples in this whole process, any number of which, could have ended me if I had just gone along with what was being presented. I wouldn't be here. I'd be a lot worse off. So I recognize that one of the things I noticed after my the first round is of treatments and everything is my voice got deeper. Maybe it was because that tumor wasn't in the back of my mouth anymore, but it just goes to it's just a major emphasis on this whole throat chakra thing. That a big part of my my journey, and the reason one of the reasons why I call this a shamanic journey is what you probably don't know is that while I'm an astrologer, and all through this whole period of going through the before even the year and a half before I was diagnosed, I was symptomatic. And from back then until now, Pluto, the planet that has to do with that rules Scorpio in the 8th house, the planet that has to do with divine communion through sexuality, death, transformation, rebirth, hidden knowledge, shared resources, power, immortality, reveling in the great mystery, and sharing out its secrets. Pluto has been crossing my ascendant. And this doesn't happen to everybody in their lifetime because Pluto takes 248 years to go around the sun. And but it's happening to me at this time, and this whole thing is a manifestation. I know as an astrologer that this whole thing is a manifestation of that energy, the energy potential of Pluto crossing one's ascendant is the death, transformation, rebirth process. And this is where it's how it's manifesting for me. And for me, in this lifetime, it has to do with realizing my true wealth, worth, and realizing my voice, So I guess in a way, me doing these videos is part of that process. Sharing the chronicling this journey, and sharing it with whoever it might do some good with down the road and around the corner. So anyway, one of the things that has in this process, in this death, transformation, rebirth process. Remember I was talking about how, Pluto and Scorpio are all about, hidden knowledge, esoteric knowledge, and the great mystery. One faces the great mystery. And it's also about immortality. Immortality is, what transcends death, right? And in that process, I've been looking at death. I've been looking at my own death. I've been confronted by death itself. As I said, death has revealed itself to me several times through this process. One day in particular, there were at least 2, if not 3, moments where I just saw that if things didn't go, you know, in the way they ultimately did, that I wouldn't be around much longer. So part of this is part of this process, and maybe it's not just this process that I'm going through. Maybe it's the process that everybody's going through, with the COVID and keeping our distance from one another and everything like that. It just kind of makes us more sensitive to one another and to the world and everything. But I have been experiencing a tremendous sensitivity to the energy signatures of everybody and everything around me. And, I have to be I've had to be very judicious about, the sort of energetic influences that I open myself to. And that means that there are times when people try to reach out to me that I don't have it to respond, or I can't enter into that energy. And it's nothing against them or nothing about them. It ain't about them. It's just what I need to do for me, for my own healing and everything like that. And I hope that is understandable, and that people can appreciate that, because I can't have it any other way. I can't do anything more. Like, last year I noticed that there were situations where, if there's one thing that this situation for me has revealed that this situation requires, and that is if there's one time in your life where you have to be selfish, this would be that time. You have to be self-centered. You have to look out for yourself. I have to look out for myself, and I have to advocate for myself. And that means that there are some people I've had to mute, and that's not my way usually, but it hasn't been. But they're healthy boundaries, because I've found that even the most well-meaning people, at times everybody brings their complete world into every situation, and sometimes people have a tendency to make what's going on with me about them, and that's fine for them, but it's not always good for me. And I've had to sometimes call people on it, and other times I just don't even have the energy to do that. And last year I had that happen with somebody very close to me, and I tried several times to have that conversation, and it never went well. So eventually I had to flip the switch, and which it's not something that I relish having to do. So I'm just mentioning, I'm kind of, I'm just being real here, as real as I can be, because I think that's what we all benefit. That's where the harvest is, in being as real as we possibly can in all, especially these kinds of situations. Because I literally have nothing to lose but what needs to be lost. So, get this tremendous sensitivity coming on, and one of the benefits of it is the insights that come, and I'm doing my best to record what those insights are. The great mystery, right? So, in my writings and postings and whatnot, I've got a couple of projects that I'm really looking forward to bringing to fruition during this period, and I'll keep up with it as much as I possibly can through the whole thing, and out the other end. I don't anticipate dying anytime soon in the physical, but there are certainly parts of me that are going to die. That is the process of transformation, and the only thing that dies is what needs to. So anyway, time to push on. I'll certainly make keep you updated if anything new shows up. We're looking at the 17th for the first infusion, the 16th for my blood draw, and the day that I move into the room on the boardwalk, and for the month. And I've told them, after that month, I'm gonna, unless something opens up that has a bathtub, I'm gonna be moving out to get a bathtub, because I gotta soak, man. So that's what's up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting anybody who's answered the call and contributed to my GoFundMe, David's Wonder Fund campaign. Thank you so much. While the medical part of this, most of it anyway, is being covered by Medi-Cal, luckily for me, the week before I got the diagnosis, I found out I was eligible for Medi-Cal. So, yippee! The rest of it, without that, I don't know what I would have done, but the universe did, apparently. The rest of it has come, through these donations to support the rest of my life. My recovery from the first round, and now, this immersion into the second round of, just covering my life expenses, and I got to tell you that the peace of mind that comes from knowing that I don't have to scratch around figuring out how I'm going to pay a friggin' bill while I'm dealing with these issues it's priceless. And I really want to communicate that and let people know just how grateful and what an impact it's had on my life. I want to say something about the flying. I saved up my money to learn how to fly, and I learned. I started it in September at Torrey Pines Glider Port down in San Diego, and by December I had passed the what's known as the P2 certification that enables me to fly without being under supervision. And talk about priceless, being able to just knowing that I can, I've got my glider in the back here, and my future is going to be spent. A fair amount of it will be, as much as possible, will be in the sky. That's where I felt the most at home. And from the moment I left the cliff the first time, I knew I was in the right place, doing the right thing. And the people that are my people, the other pilots, they're my people, and it makes so much, there's so many times since I started learning how to fly that I find myself just sort of having been in a trance, recounting flights and figuring out how I can do it better, and what I did there and what I would do again in this way. And it's just, I have much better daydreams than I ever have had in my life. And one of those little mental bubblegum things is like, I get these ideas about all these places that I've been throughout my life that I could fly now, And I'm really looking forward to going back to the Cape this summer and flying the National Seashore. I understand people fly there, are flying there right now. I'm really looking forward to flying the Blue Ridge Parkway. I'm really looking forward to flying Kitty Hawk. That's another National Seashore that is Yeah. And then, whenever we can leave the country. I mean, I heard about a really great launch place in Vancouver, Canada. Where you launch, you take a tram up and you launch and you land in the city. I'm like, I'm there. Um, so, I was like envisioning how I could fly in Israel. You could fly off the Golan Heights and land on the beach of the Sea of Galilee. I mean, like little things like that. I'm like, how would I? Um, you could probably fly off. You could fly off of Glastonbury Tor. That would be so cool. Anyway, you see what goes on in this mind. It's just. Um, I feel very fulfilled and alive about this. And if I never got to fly again, um, I have flown. You can't take that shit away from me, man. There is nothing like stepping into the sky or having the wind just pick you up into the sky. It's just, no matter what it looks like, all those videos that I post, it's nothing, it's even more amazing in real life, and it resounds throughout my life, because like right now I'm thinking about flying, it's crazy. All right, we're going to cut this off. Thanks for watching. Thanks for giving a hoot. So let's do my favorite part here. Thank you very much. Remember, we love you.